Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Below the Surface. I'm your host, Stephanie Cavigliano. Hope you are all well and keeping safe. We have a very special show lined up for you today, but before we start, a very quick reminder that you can ask questions in the comments section below, or please feel free to just say hello and let us know where you're tuning in from. Also, if you've missed any of our shows over the last few months, you can still watch them. Make sure to check them out over on the Barracuda LinkedIn page. All right, so now on to today's show, and we have a very special guest host joining us who will be speaking to our guests today. So please join me in welcoming our Vice President of Global Alliances at Barracuda Networks, Nicole Napiltonia.
Good morning. Thank you so much. Very happy to be part of Barracuda's Below the Surface today. I'm joined by two of my colleagues, one from Microsoft and one from Barracuda. I'd love to introduce and welcome Nills Franssens, who is our Senior Cloud Solution Architect, CSA, and for Microsoft, and Tim Jefferson, who is the SVP of Data, Networking, and Applications. Today, we're going to talk about a solution that Barracuda recently announced on Azure, which is called Barracuda Cloud-to-Cloud Backup, designed to backup data for Office 365, Microsoft 365, across many of the solutions that are part of that suite. So, you've got Outlook and Teams and SharePoint and all of those. So I would love to give our guests an opportunity to introduce themselves. Nills, could you take a minute and just talk about your role and sort of what you do at Microsoft?
Sure. Thanks, Nicole. So hi, everybody. My name is Nills, and as Nicole introduced me, I'm a cloud solution architect at Microsoft. I work with a select set of customers in either building new applications on top of Azure or migrating existing ones to Azure. And the reason I'm joining this conversation here today is I've been working with Barracuda for the past 3 years already and been doing some great work with Tim and his engineering team in building a number of solutions on top of Azure as a platform. So Tim, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey, thanks, Nills. Again, Tim Jefferson. I'm responsible for product development at the Barracuda, so specifically what we call DNA, which is our data protection, network, and application security portfolio. Thanks, Nills.
Awesome. So to kick things off, I think, for many of the sessions that we've had, we've talked about how the world has changed. For a long time, everybody was mostly in the office, and then with COVID, we all shifted to mostly at home. And now what we're finding is a hybrid. I know, for example, Barracuda's corporate headquarters will open up next Monday, and although everybody won't be in the office, we'll have the opportunity to. So I personally intend to kind of go back and forth. My daughter is in school, but doing that virtually, so managing all of that. But that makes me somebody who, isn't really doing, sort of one habit or another, and I think that's something that's happening a bunch all across the globe. So how is that going to impact technology and some of the things you guys are thinking about, Tim?
Well, I think from what we've seen in our customers is just a huge increase in the amount of collaboration they're doing using collaboration platforms like Office 365. So specifically in the last year, we've seen Office 365 consumption quadruple year over year. There's some stats that Office 365 monthly users have gone up to over 258 million users. So just a huge increase. If people can't come to the office and collaborate, that they're leaning on these kind of collaboration platforms. And that dependency creates additional challenges for security, risk, and compliance in organizations to make sure that they're protecting that data and making sure that they have programs in place to make sure there's resiliency and availability of those collaboration platforms. Nills, what are you guys seeing?
Yeah, I'm seeing exactly the same as you're seeing, Tim. A lot more people are using digital tools to collaborate. I think one of the biggest ones we're seeing a huge increase in is Microsoft Teams, where Microsoft Teams is a platform where people can either chat or do Teams-based collaboration on different Teams channels, as well as doing virtual conferencing. And Teams has become sort of the backbone for first remote collaboration, but now also for hybrid collaboration, where you can store your documents in teams and work together as a team on a single shared set of documents. And we're seeing that become like the cornerstone for business productivity in first the remote world and now the hybrid world.
So how does cloud-to-cloud, Barracuda cloud-to-cloud backup sort of respond to all of that? I think, Tim, can you share a little bit about the solution and what's been announced for Azure?
I think as we mentioned, IT leaders understand as there's more reliance on platforms like Office 365, there's often confusion about what type of protections there are natively. So Microsoft specifically recommends to their customers that they leverage third-party platforms like Barracuda Cloud-to-Cloud Backup to help protect those solutions. And what we've seen over the years with the solution is just obviously rapid adoption, but some interesting behavior dynamics in how people are leveraging the platform. The amount of, we actually commissioned a survey, a third-party survey of over 1,800 IT administrators globally from the US, EMEA, and APAC. And we saw some interesting data come out that we see reflected in how our customers are consuming the cloud-to-cloud backup solution, in that in the United States alone, over 3/4 of the respondents have admitted to receiving ransomware attacks. And then because of the dependency on these collaboration platforms, the IT organizations have a sharp increase in the amount of activity around backup and restores and lost documentation. So there's become more reliance on them restoring documents. So and the amount of data that we're seeing come into the platform has increased, tenfold for us. So that made us kind of take a step back and think about, hey, how can we re-architect this platform to facilitate this kind of growth and consumption? And we thought about, this is where we partner with Microsoft. We sat down with a solution architect like Nills and thought through how can we leverage the most modern architectures, the most modern languages to architect and build a new platform that will scale at cloud scale and allow our customers to back up and restore and support the kind of use cases that are done. So it's been a great journey partnering with Microsoft to co-architect and build this solution. Nills, what's your experience been like?
Yeah, I again completely echo what you're saying, Tim, and I think what's important for people to understand as we're talking about cloud-to-cloud backup as really being a cloud-native backup solution is cloud-to-cloud backup by Barracuda is a fully software-as-a-service solution where customers do not have to provision anything in their own infrastructure. They do not need to take care of any capacity management. They do not need to take care of any compute infrastructure for the backup. They simply have the ability to sign up for the service, and the service itself is built in a very scalable manner that can support a whole slew of different situations and customers. So the benefit for customers is as they have their employees take more and more data into Office 365, you do not need to take care of any capacity management, increased compute. Cloud-to-cloud backup handles all of that transparently for you, and you as a customer have that data protection enabled without having to set up anything yourself. It's a really nice solution.
This sounds really different, and you guys have described some of the reasons why, being cloud native and some of the advantages of being built with Microsoft on the Azure platform. But what impact does this have sort of commercially or around speed or maybe other sort of details that people might not, that might be true to this?
Yeah, I think the big change that we're seeing is really around compliance and risk. So as customers, again, lean on platforms like Office 365, a lot of the compliance regulations have been changing, and customers needed to make sure that they're backing up and restoring the data and geographies in which they're working in. So it became very important for a third-party solution like Barracuda to make sure, as we architected the solution, that we provided global availability, that we had regions and options for customers to back up and restore their data in their particular geo. So this was a great opportunity, again, as we partnered with Microsoft to leverage the Azure footprint and allow customers to choose, globally. So wherever Microsoft is in regions, Barracuda Cloud-to-Cloud Backup provides options for customers in those local geographies to do backup and restoring those data in those regions. The other two key use cases were really around ease of use, and again, because there's so much activity going on, that IT administrators are being consumed by a lot of jobs, and a lot of them become very urgent. People showing up for meetings, and and again in the survey, interesting data said about 70% of the restored jobs are accidental deletion. So, and this was very time consuming for IT administrators. So instead of going back and restoring an entire box, which may sometimes rewrite the document they're looking for, customers really wanted fine-grained restore capability, search capability, so they can find a specific rev of a certain document, so they can quickly look in for, do a quick search and restore it specifically to where they wanted to store into the box or back up in a certain location. So that was the key capability that we worked with Microsoft to architect in. So yeah, those are the key user challenges that we tried to cover in this solution.
And to add to what Tim was saying, just to add a little bit more color around all of the Azure regions available, Azure itself is available in more than 60 regions worldwide as of today, and we keep adding new regions year over year. But by architecting this solution on top of Azure as a platform, cloud-to-cloud backup can be enabled in any of those 60 regions, and just allowing Barracuda to follow customers where they are and to adhere to any local compliance regulations. So that's a nice partnership.
Yeah.
Sounds awesome. And you did talk a little bit about the use cases, but are there any customer stories? I mean, it just feels like this is something that not only could save resources and speed and some of the things you mentioned, Tim, but also like maybe people's jobs, are there, just feels pretty meaningful.
Well, there's a ton of interesting anecdotal stories we're seeing within our customer base. Barracuda has over 220,000 customers. And again, as there's this huge dependence in these platforms, the type of requests becoming an interesting reflection of how customers are dependent on these types of solutions. We have an example where classrooms are now all virtual, and as teachers are trying to share documents or collaborative documents, sometimes students make a lot of mistakes, and we've seen some customers use the Barracuda Cloud-to-Cloud Backup platform where IT administrators are quickly able to restore specific lost documents or collaborative projects that students are working on in real time. So that was an interesting use case that came up. We had examples of executives who were traveling for important meetings and inadvertently lost a document they were about to present, in high urgency, wanted a high fidelity search and restore that could happen instantaneously. Those kind of things that came up. But I think the most important use case is just the increased frequency we're seeing in ransomware, where we're actually seeing customers, as they're being attacked, the attackers now are looking to see if customers have backup, and they try to target those backups first. So one of the key use cases and re-architecting the solutions to protecting customers against that use case. So we get calls every week about customers who have these types of attacks and are very relieved that they restore those documents right away, but also very performantly. So there's not 2 or 3 weeks downtime as they're restoring all this data. We have examples of customers getting over 70 terabits of data restored in a single week. So building a highly performant solution that allowed customers to give them that agility was a key requirement, a key use case we're seeing.
Yeah, and that holds true not only for the restore operations, but also for the backup operations themselves. As new data is entering Office 365 and customers are making changes to documents or creating new documents or just receiving email, that all of that data lives on the Microsoft network. And since the cloud-to-cloud backup solution lives on exactly that same network, there's a very high-performance pipe in between Office 365 and the cloud-to-cloud backup solution that enables Barracuda to, in a really timely manner, take backups of customer environments.
It sounds like being cloud native is truly differentiating. Is it possible to take a look at the solution?
Sure. I pre-recorded a sample demo to show during this webinar or during this LinkedIn Live. So I'd asked the backstage crew to turn on that video.
So let's have a look at cloud-to-cloud backup in action. And to start, what you're looking at right now is the dashboard of the cloud-to-cloud backup service, where you can see all of the services in Microsoft 365 that this instance is protecting. And you can see we are protecting OneDrive, Exchange, SharePoint, and Teams, and when last backups of each of those sources was taken. In the dashboard, you can also see any restore operations that were recently triggered, as well as any of the exports that were done in the product. And then why don't we look into a little bit more detail of each of the data sources. And to start, let's have a look at Exchange. And if you look at Exchange, what you're looking at right now is a list of all mailboxes that are being protected by cloud-to-cloud backup. And from this view, there's a number of different ways you can go through the items that are backed up to trigger a restore. First thing you could do is you could change the date in here, and you could browse back to a point in time, and for instance have a look at the mailbox on March 31st, so last week, and see what each of those individual mailboxes would look like at that point in time. Another thing you can also do is you can also do a pretty granular search. And for instance, I know that there's an element in here that is called budget review. And as we're looking for this, we can actually see all of the individual items called budget review with their last backup time going back in time. As you can see, those times always change. And we can restore each single one of them. And so if we were to want to restore them, we can select the item and hit the restore button. And in the restore action, we can do one of two things. We can either restore it in its original location, or if we wouldn't want to, we can also restore that in another location in any potential other mailbox that is available in this account. So that's Exchange. Let's now also have a look at SharePoint, because that's also an important data source to protect. And as we're looking at SharePoint, what you're looking at right now is a list of SharePoint sites that are being backed up by this instance. And for instance, we can have a look at the marketing sites. And as you will see, there are a number of documents available in the marketing site. And if I would want to have a look, we can go into documents right here. And then for them documents, you can see all the different folder structures from within SharePoint. And I know that there is a presentation in here that I would love to just get a copy from. And I can do two things here with this presentation. The first thing I could do is I could restore it. I could restore it either, again, in place or potentially in another location. Or another thing I can also do is I can export it. And if I select the export option, this triggers a background job that will make this file available for download. And if I then were to go back to either the report section or the dashboard, and I will go to the dashboard section in this demo, if I go back to the dashboard, I can actually see that for exports, my item is now available for download, and I can download this backup presentation and get the copy available immediately to me, rather than having to restore this in place in SharePoint. The final section I want to show you here is the reports section. And as we look into the reports, what you can see here is you can see all of the different tasks that are being executed by cloud-to-cloud backup. This includes backup operations, as you can see here. But this also includes all of the restore operations to see which restores were being done, as well as all of the exports that were being triggered by the system. What you also see is a full audit log of anybody who logged into the system, and you can see the user accounts that are being used, and because this is a demo environment, you will see the demo guest user here. But as you can see, this also gives you some auditability around who is accessing the system and who is using this to restore items. And this, in a nutshell, is a very quick overview of the new version of cloud-to-cloud backup.
That is awesome. Thank you, Nils. That's for somebody who's lost documents, that restore feature is very, very interesting. So I think we've covered a lot of ground on the backup and Barracuda's cloud-to-cloud backup, which has been super helpful. I just wondered, Tim, we were talking about some of the new challenges and problems. What are some of the other things that you're thinking about, problems you're trying to solve, technologies or innovations you have in your scope?
Yeah, I think it's been great hearing from our customer base around how their challenges are evolving. And the big challenge we're seeing now is due to the amount of data that customers are collaborating with, an increasing regulatory environment that's making it companies more responsible for the type of data they're holding. Customers have been asking us, they need to move from data protection to data security. So some of the key questions they're asking us of, and some of the challenges they have, is really around what data they're collecting. You know, is it payment card information? Is it personal identifiable information? Are there other vulnerabilities in the data they're storing, like keys or credentials or root certificates, or other compliance-based data that they need to have some controls around? Secondly, they needed to understand who and what had access to that data, and be able to put, and more importantly, be able to put some type of policy enforcement around who has access to data, and putting some control enforcement around that. So again, Barracuda is a great opportunity for us, with our partnership with Microsoft, to sit down with some of their architects and think through how can we solve this problem for our customers. And again, it's a great opportunity to sit down with Nils and his team and kind of innovate and to build a platform from scratch that we call Barracuda Data Inspector. And Barracuda Data Inspector is a new product by Barracuda. It's a SaaS-based solution, again, architected on Microsoft Azure. It's a solution that does a few things. It does automatic detection of sensitive and malicious content for Microsoft OneDrive and SharePoint. It'll quickly classify it as over 130 built-in classifiers to help customers find if they're holding PII or payment card information or other classifications that compliance regulations will be concerned about. There's redacted findings, so administrators are not exposed to those PII information. And it provides automatic notifications. So one of the key kind of cool use cases our customers are asking us for, instead of all these alerts coming up, they wanted a mechanism by which, for a lot of the low fidelity incidents, that we could notify the users in real time. So if they created a document that broke the policy of that particular company, that you can send them an email and allow them to self-remediate. And then for some of the high fidelity security incidents, that would allow the administrators to focus on those. So it allows automated notifications to admins and users. And again, it's a 100% SaaS-based solution with zero setup. So we're really excited about the solution.
Yeah, and this was super fun to build with Tim and his team, because the team we worked with had a blank slate and they could start designing this solution really from scratch. And as we were building this together, this is built with the latest and greatest in cloud native technologies. We're using, in the background, we're using Azure Functions, Cosmos Database, and a lot of the Azure cognitive services to do that document scanning. Because what Tim explained about recognizing personal identifiable information in documents, that is relatively straightforward to do in, let's say, a PDF document or a Word document where the text is available as plain text. But a lot of PII information, think about a picture of a passport or a picture of a driver's license, can end up in OneDrive or SharePoint as well. And by using some of the cognitive services in Microsoft Azure, those pictures can get translated into actual text that the solution can then use to identify any PII information in the data, and then automatically do what Tim explained with alerting either the user or alerting the administrator and showing some redacted findings in the dashboard. So it's a really nice solution, scalable, cloud native. It was really fun to build with the team.
That sounds super cool. So is that a separate solution? I know the Barracuda Cloud-to-Cloud Backup is a SaaS solution. Sounds like this new data inspector is also, are they related or separate, or can you give some details?
Yeah, so Data Inspector is in what we call private preview today. So it's essentially in beta. So, and we look to release it this summer. So keep your eye out for that. And it is a separate SaaS-based solution.
Cool. Cool. Guessing it'll be available in Azure Marketplace, just like all the other Barracuda solutions you've created so far. And jumping back to backup just for a second, it looks like we're actually getting some questions. So one is more about recover than restore. Would be keen to know about RTO, recovery time objective, if production goes down.
Not sure what the question is. What's the time of the RTO, or?
And hopefully I captured this right. It's more about the recovery than the restore. She'd be keen to know about recovery time objective if production goes down.
I can maybe take a swing at this question, because the cloud-to-cloud backup is really about data protection and ensuring that you have let's say, a compliant historical backup of data that is stored in Office 365, so that if a document changes or documents get deleted, that you still have a copy of those documents. Cloud-to-cloud backup itself is not let's say, a redundant version of Microsoft 365. So cloud-to-cloud backup can make your data available in case of, imagine there is, hopefully not, but imagine there is a Microsoft 365 outage. Through cloud-to-cloud backup, you could still get access to some of your data, but cloud-to-cloud backup is not a secondary instance of Exchange Online or SharePoint Online. So it gives you access to your data, but it's not a copy of the application itself.
Got it. Okay. And then I think we have another one that might be specific, a question around RBAC applicable, especially when it comes to the export function.
Yeah, we do have RBAC functionality. So administrators have different role-based access policies by which they could choose who has access to those restores, and then some very high fidelity around where those restores go to. Whether they go to the original user. One of the key use cases, as there's employee turnover, and you want to restore it to a different point or a different user or a different mailbox or something, we have that kind of fidelity in the product today.
Perfect. Well, I just wanted to give a big thank you to Nills and Tim for joining. I think we're at time. If there are more questions, I know we can answer them offline, but I'd love to turn it back now to Stephanie to talk about kind of what's next.
Thanks so much, Nicole, Tim, and Nills, for all of your time today. Some really great and interesting insights that you've provided for us. And folks, if you want to find out more, please go ahead and visit the Barracuda website for further details. You can also check out our upcoming webinar on April 15th, where we'll go ahead and reveal the findings from our latest report, the State of Office 365 Backup. And we'll go ahead and put a registration link out there for you now. All right, so remember that you can watch all of our LinkedIn Live shows from the Barracuda LinkedIn page. And until next time, have a safe journey.